Welcome back to Boilers and Beyond. I'm Jordan Jones. Purdue will head north on US 31 this week to take on the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame as the Shillelagh is on the line. It's the 89th meeting between the two, and we'll preview the game in full today. Should Purdue want to continue this series? We'll dive into that and more following a final look back after rewatching Purdue's loss to Southern Cal. If you don't already, be sure to follow the show on Twitter at Boilers Beyond. Come join the conversation there. There's a lot to talk about. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Next week, we'll have an episode here Sunday after the Notre Dame game, and then we'll have a midweek episode next week previewing the start of basketball practice as that gets going next week. Plenty of anticipation for that, to put it mildly. So start sending in some questions for that. Send me your hoops questions here ahead of preseason practice. Do that on Twitter, at Boilers Beyond. You can email the show, boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com. Got a good final look at the USC game after I recorded the post-game podcast, and right off the bat, it really stood out just how much Purdue struggled in pass protection, how much Purdue struggled in run blocking. Up front, it was rough for Purdue. The right side of the offensive line had a tough day. USC got a lot of pressure from that side. But USC also did a really good job at taking advantage of matchups with Purdue's running backs who struggled mightily in pass protection. It was a rough day for Purdue blocking, and USC has a good defensive front. I know USC feels that they really improved that area of the defense, but that's not the best defensive front Purdue will see this year, and that's the semi-concerning part. Now, it's fair to project improvement throughout the season, but that was a bit of a red flag. There were a few times right away where Devin Mockabee and Antonio Harris really got blown by trying to block. And then on that interception that Ryan Brown threw to the big fella, the right side of the offensive line just failed. It was like a dam failure, and the water just rushed through. That's what it looked like. Ryan Brown didn't have a chance there. If you want to pin that interception on him, go ahead. But there wasn't much he could have done aside from just taking a sack there and going down. I thought early on in the game, Purdue did a really good job defending the run. The problem for Purdue early on was that it did a nice job against the run. And I'm talking the first 2, 3, 4 series here. But when USC was in third and long, Purdue wasn't able to get home bringing just 3 or 4 guys. And it doesn't matter how good you are in coverage, generally. If you can't get pressure on a good quarterback who has good receivers, someone's going to come open. And you saw it right away. Purdue gets 2 stuffs of runs, forces a 3rd and 10, and Maeva hits Jacoby Lane for a gain of 50 or so. That's deflating. It's backbreaking, but that was the reality for Purdue, is when it didn't bring a blitz, when it didn't bring a linebacker or a safety on a blitz, it couldn't get home. And if you're not going to be able to get home bringing 3 or 4, then you're going to put yourself in some compromising positions. Purdue's got to see if its edge rushers can start to make a difference here, because so far, not been a whole lot there. It just hasn't been great. It came down, you see it there. It's a Jimmy's and Joe's game. That's all I keep coming back to. You know, there's a 3rd and 10 on the second drive where USC has a snap issue, and Maeva just floats one up to Nook Hines, who absolutely mosses Ryan Turner. I mean, just a remarkable play on the ball, but it's a play that Purdue wasn't able to make. The 4th down conversions were a big story of this game, but give Lincoln Riley some credit as a play caller there. USC did a good job when it went for it on 4th down for the most part of getting the necessary yardage on third down to make it make sense to go for it on fourth. And then Lincoln Riley had a bunch of quick hitters in the passing game of things that came open to get the ball across the line of scrimmage. He's one of the best offensive minds in the sport. I know he gets a lot of criticism, but it's stuff like that. Stuff he does as an offensive play caller that's really, really impressive. Purdue's wide receivers continued a really nice trajectory. Nitro Tuggle had a nice day. I like what he's able to do a lot. Michael Jackson, Armad Branch, Nitro Tuggle. That's a really nice top three to have. E.J. Horton looked good in there. And then George Burren at tight end. If those are your top 5 pass catchers outside, and you can mix Devin Mockabee in there as well out of the backfield, you've got something. That's a pretty good group that you have to catch passes for Ryan Brown. There's reason to like that. You saw all those guys for the most part. Branch missed a good amount of the game. Looks like he got hit in the eye or something, but a lot to like there for Purdue out wide. And I thought Josh Henson called a really nice game. Purdue couldn't run the ball, and there came a point where it was obvious to everyone who was in the stadium that Purdue couldn't run the ball, and Josh Henson didn't try to force the issue. I thought Purdue utilized the quick passing game well, the short stuff really well to, not run the ball because Purdue didn't run the ball with it, but to give the semblance of ability to run the ball. I liked what Purdue did there. Henson had a nice game plan, and it all came down to the red zone. And I had said this on the pregame pod, and I wasn't really thinking of the red zone, but it came down to be true. If Purdue wasn't able to run the ball effectively, it's asking an awful lot of Ryan Brown to go win you a game in his 5th career start against a good opponent like USC as a 3-touchdown underdog. And that's how it played out. Purdue moved the ball well. Ryan Brown played pretty well from a down-to-down basis. I thought he played a good game when you just kind of look at the median of his outcomes. 10 points on 5 red zone trips, though. That's your game. When you're trying to be a 3-touchdown underdog to really scare the life and have a chance to beat your opponent that's significantly better than you on paper, you have to maximize opportunities. Purdue gets in the red zone 5 times. You tell me Purdue's getting in the red zone 5 times coming in, I'm telling you Purdue's got a chance. But Purdue only scores 10 points. A field goal, a touchdown, 3 interceptions. Purdue got the chance because it held USC to a ton of field goal opportunities. Purdue did some good things there. It did a nice job of bending, not breaking, to use the classic cliche of defense. But Ryan Brown wasn't able to punch it in when the field condensed. And again, Purdue didn't try to run the ball in the red zone for the most part. I don't think Purdue felt particularly confident in that. And you saw how it ended up. And then just a little bit of an anomaly here. All 3 games so far, a field goal has hit the uprights. Ball State hit one off the upright in the opener. Spencer Porath banked one in. And then the USC kicker clanked one off the upright. Will it be 4 for 4 this week in South Bend? We'll see. And then 2 games in a row now. Late hit out of bounds. Taj Rael picked up one after Breon Ishmael did a couple weeks ago against Southern Illinois. Just the little things, man. It's going to be a thin group on the margins this year, and things like that. 15 yards. That's a problem. I wouldn't expect it to be a trend. Purdue's done a nice job of being a minimally penalized team thus far. Got to continue, though. That can't start to slip away. Purdue doesn't have that type of margin for error the way USC did against Purdue, when USC committed a lot of penalties, but it got away with it for the most part. All right, Purdue goes to Notre Dame on Saturday. Notre Dame comes in at 0-2, probably the best winless team in the country. I say that a little bit facetiously because there aren't that many winless teams left, and certainly none of them are of the caliber of Notre Dame. It's hard to evaluate teams this early in the year sometimes because Notre Dame's already had a bye week. It lost its season opener at Miami, 27-24. Miami looks pretty dangerous. It looked good against Notre Dame. It pounded South Florida last week. South Florida that opened with wins against Boise and Florida, the Gators. And then last week, Texas A&M goes into South Bend, pulls out a 41-40 wild game that was. A botched snap on an extra point is what did Notre Dame in. A&M scores the winning touchdown on a 4th and 11. It was an insane ending. I couldn't believe that the A&M went in and won that game. So Notre Dame's 0-2, and the one thing that's very apparent is that Notre Dame's defense has taken a pretty big step back. Al Golden was fantastic there as the defensive coordinator, but after last season, he left for the NFL. I believe he's with the Bengals now. And former Rutgers head coach Chris Ash came in as the defensive coordinator. And so far, the results aren't great. Now, Miami and A&M are both good teams. Miami looks legit. Miami looks the part of a real contender nationally. A&M has a lot of talent on that roster. If Marcel Reed improves as the season goes on, that's a college football playoff team as well. A&M, with Marcel Reed, he left a lot of explosives out there, and Notre Dame got hit with a bunch of explosive plays. Reed has a little more accuracy, and that gets out of hand maybe. So it's a pass defense issue. Notre Dame's defending the run pretty well, but there's a lot of stuff coming open in the pass game. Notre Dame's got a couple of really good corners, Christian Gray and Leonard Moore. Both of them were a little bit dinged up last week. I think they're both good to go here. They're both listed on the depth chart for Notre Dame this week. They need them to be 100% as they move forward. That's an area to watch because Purdue did move the ball pretty well last week. I liked what Ryan Brown did through the air. The red zone interceptions can't happen again, but is this another game where Purdue is just one-dimensional on offense? That's what I wonder, because Purdue got nothing going on the ground. The traditional run game gave Purdue nothing. I know sack-adjusted stuff gets a little complicated, but even if you take out sacks, Purdue ran for about 90 yards last week, and 34 of those came on the busted play, the Ryan Brown play. So it just didn't run the ball well enough. Against Notre Dame, can Purdue have any semblance of a ground game or not? Because Notre Dame's offense is good. C.J. Carr looks comfortable as a first-time starter. He's a redshirt freshman, was a big-time blue-chip prospect. He's the grandson of Lloyd Carr, the old Michigan coach. He won a pretty intense quarterback battle in fall camp over Kenny Minchey. It came down to, I think, the final week. It was an intense one, and a lot of reporting out of South Bend that Minchey might have looked better. But so far through 2 games, Carr's been pretty solid. He looks the part. You see why they like him. And they have a really nice run game to help him out, to help him ease into things. Jeremiah Love is terrific. Jadarian Price is as good of a second back as you'll find. Those two are excellent. They're not a particularly explosive wide receiving core, but they are better. They've got a nice tight end, couple of nice wideouts with Malachi Fields, with Jaden Greathouse, Will Pauling from Wisconsin's a guy to watch. It's a better wide receiving core than Notre Dame has had in recent years. I don't know how great it is. We're going to find out here. I like Marcus Freeman a lot. I do. I'm remarkably impressed with him. He's done a really nice job there. They're 0-2, and they're 0-2 for the second time in his 4 years, which is kind of crazy when you consider how good Freeman has been. But he's modernized that program a bit. He's made that brand cool. He's really embraced it there in a way that I don't know that Brian Kelly ever did. He's been impressive. He's been really impressive. Notre Dame dropped this week to 24th in the AP poll, so it will be a ranked opponent. And we're not even a month into the season, and I think I'm going to lose my mind with people arguing about the AP poll. The way teams are ranked in public forums is just a mess. College basketball does this really well because, and I don't know if it's just a casual fan type of deal, but I feel like so much of college basketball discourse centers around KenPom, which is a predictive metric that isn't entirely resume based the way like a power rating would be in football, but there's not a single one that's super widespread like KenPom is. Because the predictives do a pretty good job of telling you, like, you know, what Vegas would do, where teams are going to be rated if you're trying to figure out who would be favored over another, things like that. That's what KenPom is. That's what Bart Torvik is. That's what Sagarin is in both football and basketball. I don't really care if you prioritize a merit-based poll like the AP, because there's something to be said for that too. But they're two very different things, because trust me, Notre Dame's 0-2. Notre Dame's played two good teams. There are not 23 teams that would be favored against Notre Dame on a neutral field this week. Not at all. So, I've just kind of hit a breaking point of hearing people complain about Notre Dame being ranked, while at the same time saying they want more good games in the sport. I mean, Notre Dame scheduled aggressively. It lost by a total of 4 points. I think it's still a good team. But if Notre Dame isn't good, we're going to find out really quick. It's a good team. There's a reason Notre Dame's favored by 25.5 on Saturday with a pretty low total, 54.5 last I saw. You can do the math on that implied final score. It doesn't paint a particularly rosy picture for Purdue. Somewhere in the 40, it'd be around 40 to 15, somewhere in there. Not great if you're Purdue. I've come back to this question a lot over the past week, and I got some good engagement on Twitter, and I really enjoyed this discourse. Should this series be played? Purdue and Notre Dame have a really storied history. This is a rivalry that was played every year from 1946 to 2014. The Shillelagh Trophy is one of Purdue's 3 trophies that it plays for. Currently, this is the 3rd game on the current series contract. There are 3 more. The 2 will meet in West Lafayette next year. Next year being 2026, and then in 2028. In between, 2027, they'll meet in South Bend. We don't know what scheduling is going to look like moving forward. There are a lot of complexities to creating a schedule. We'll see what the Big Ten mandates, things like that. But from a Purdue standpoint, it's a really interesting dynamic because there are some iconic Purdue moments that came in this series. You go back to 1968. Purdue beats Notre Dame in a number 1 versus number 2 matchup. You go back to 1984, the first game ever in the Hoosier Dome. Purdue upsets Notre Dame. 1997, Ross-Ade Stadium, Joe Tiller's second game. He gets his first win as Vinny Sutherland takes a screen to the house to seal the deal on a big-time upset. Taylor Stubblefield does the boiler up, scoring from 97 yards out in South Bend in 2004. There are some great Purdue moments that have come from this rivalry, and this series means a lot to a lot of fans. There's a segment of Purdue's fan base, a very sizable one, that hates Notre Dame as much as it hates Indiana. There's also a segment of the fan base that doesn't know Notre Dame as a rival. It's been 18 years since Purdue beat Notre Dame. Since 2007, most of the losses haven't been particularly close. 2009 was a heartbreaker, man. Kyle Rudolph late in the game on a 4th down. 2012, I think Notre Dame hit a walk-off field goal. That was the Notre Dame team that went to the national title. That was the Purdue team that ended in Danny Hope being fired. Purdue went up under the Golden Dome and almost won. But for the most part, this series is all Notre Dame. I went back and counted. Purdue won back-to-back years in 1984 and 1985. Since then, Notre Dame leads this series 26-5. It has not been a particularly successful series from Purdue. Now, at one point, a big selling point of playing Notre Dame was the exposure that came with it, of being on national TV to play against Notre Dame. Because there was a long time where that was not how college football was. It's not like it is now, where I can pull up YouTube TV and I can see any game I want. And if it's not there, it's probably on ESPN+. That wasn't always the case. Now, I don't know that that's as big of a part of it. And while the Notre Dame brand is as big as it's ever been, I don't know that it means as much as it used to play Notre Dame. I support the idea of these power conference opponents in the non-conference. I think the Big Ten should mandate it. The Big Ten does not currently. The SEC has for a long time, for about the past decade or so. I don't know why the Big Ten doesn't. It doesn't really make sense to me, but I can't blame the teams that schedule lightly. And from a pure competitive standpoint, there's not a great reason for Purdue to play Notre Dame. It's a compelling matchup. It gets fans excited. Ross-Ade Stadium's always full when Notre Dame comes to town. Yeah, there are Notre Dame fans there, but Purdue fans travel. Purdue fans fill it up really well for that game as well. I'm over the rivalry's history. When Notre Dame is good, the series hasn't been ultra competitive, with the exception of the 1960s. When Notre Dame slipped a little bit, Ty Willingham, Bob Davie, Purdue had its success, and that was when Purdue was good. But when Notre Dame's been good, Purdue's really struggled. There are programs that you can schedule in the non-conference to challenge yourself, that you have a bit better of a chance to win. History's important. There's something to be said for that. I grew up on this rivalry, man. I grew up in Warsaw, an hour away from Notre Dame Stadium. I grew up with a whole lot of Notre Dame fans, a whole lot of the Notre Dame football, IU basketball fans. I grew up a Purdue fan up there. I dealt with it. I dealt with Purdue losing pretty much every year. So the history of it's cool. I don't have a huge opinion myself, but it was interesting to get feedback because it was pretty split. It's pretty split, and it's an interesting dynamic here with this game. I do think Purdue is capable of competing on Saturday. I'd be stunned if Purdue won this game, and it's more of a Marcus Freeman thing than anything. Notre Dame has hit an awful lot of adversity through three seasons plus. I guess three seasons and 2 games into his fourth. Started 0-2 in his first season. Notre Dame finished 9-4. Last year, Notre Dame loses to Northern Illinois, doesn't lose again till the national championship game. Notre Dame has overcome adversity really well. Notre Dame has accomplished, it's done a great job of battling back when its backs are against the wall. And now this is a spot where Notre Dame can't lose another game if it wants to make the playoff, more than likely. And that would be a big disappointment for Notre Dame to miss the playoff a year after going on a massive run all the way to the national title game. We're going to see. We're going to see how Notre Dame responds to that. Purdue can't turn the ball over. It just can't. You can't have a repeat of last week. I think Notre Dame's a better team than USC. USC let Purdue off the hook a little bit. I don't know that Notre Dame will do the same. Purdue's got its limitations, man. You can't commit penalties. You can't commit turnovers. Got to be really crisp. Got to be really, really crisp. You can't ask Ryan Brown to do everything. He started a road game at Illinois last year, performed really well there. This is a different type of road atmosphere. Illinois is a nice environment. Memorial Stadium can get rocking there, and last year Illinois had a good team. I'm sure it was a decent environment there that day. What he's going to see Saturday is a step above that. It's going to be rowdy in there. Notre Dame fans are going to be ready to go. Can't ask him to do everything for you. Purdue's got to force some turnovers. No turnovers forced yet through 3 games. Only team in the Big Ten not to do so. Purdue's got to be disruptive. Got to get to the passer. Got to get hands on footballs. And when there are opportunities for interceptions, Purdue can't drop them. Purdue's dropped a few so far. Massive underdog role here. Can Purdue cover the spread? That was a big deal last week, I thought. Not that the spread is the be-all, end-all, but Purdue looked like it belonged. Purdue did not look like a stranger out on that football field. Can Purdue look the same way this week? That would be a big deal. That would be a real accomplishment. September means lots of things. The return of football season has us all excited. Pumpkin-scented candles fill my house. Leaves are beginning to fall, and the weather is starting to turn. It's also Life Insurance Awareness Month. As an agent with Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance, my biggest passion is ensuring that my clients have the proper amounts and types of life insurance. Give me a call at 317-846-5861 or email me, jordan.jones@infarmbureau.com. Let's make sure that your family and your world are properly protected. I thought it was a pretty interesting thing to come across on Sunday that we already have 2 power conference coaching vacancies, as Virginia Tech and UCLA both opened up on Sunday. And it made me think, and I don't remember if I talked about this at all last year. I do remember thinking it at the time, but now I think it really looks like it could have been some good fortune for Purdue to hire a coach last offseason instead of this offseason. There was not much activity last year. There were only 4 Power 4 jobs that came open: Purdue, North Carolina, UCF, and West Virginia. And of those other 3 jobs, none of them hired a coach that Purdue would have hired. Purdue was not hiring Bill Belichick. Purdue was certainly not hiring Scott Frost. And Purdue was not going to hire Rich Rodriguez and some of the baggage that he has. That wasn't going to happen. Purdue kind of got its pick of the litter of coaches that would take the Purdue job. Not everyone would take the Purdue job, obviously. You're not getting Kirby Smart or anything. But of coaches that would take Purdue, Purdue probably got its top choice there. We're already off to a hot start here. We're 3 weeks into the season. Virginia Tech is chasing something that may or may not be replicable. What Frank Beamer did there was remarkable. That's an interesting spot in the ACC. I don't know that I love being in the ACC for future stability. And in hindsight, Virginia Tech probably should have pulled the plug when Ryan Walters went in there and handled the Hokies easily in Blacksburg after that rain delay. That should have been a pretty big red flag. And then UCLA just has a boatload of problems. Being in a major city is both the best and worst part of these types of jobs. It's the best and worst part of Miami. It's the best and worst part of USC and UCLA. It's the best and worst part of, of Northwestern. It's a little different there, but when you're in these big cities, these entertainment cities, when you're on a beach, yeah, you're in these population centers where it helps for recruiting. There's no shortage of talent in the greater Los Angeles area. But the fan support is brutal. Look at the pictures of the Rose Bowl crowds recently. They're non-existent. It's been made abundantly clear. Every article you read about this, there's a big gap in funding there. There's not a huge, passionate fan base donating back. This is tough. I mean, Chip Kelly left there to go be an offensive coordinator for Ohio State. The Big Ten is a dog-eat-dog world, and UCLA has not shown the desire to be a big dog in college football, not at the Big Ten level. This is a really tough one. I don't think either of these jobs are terrific. I'm curious especially to see who UCLA hires. But, big picture here. Florida seems like it's a foregone conclusion, and that's a massive job. That's a national championship expectations job. Wisconsin is a mess. I can't believe how poorly that's gone for Luke Fickell. You want to talk about a cautionary tale of being careful what you wish for? That program's not close. How married to David Braun is Northwestern? I don't know. That's, again, not a job that's better than Purdue, but it could be another opening. Down in the SEC, I mean, Arkansas, Sam Pittman hasn't done wonders there. I'd be shocked if Jonathan Smith got fired at Michigan State, but it's a new athletic director. It sounds like that buyout is reasonable. I guess you never know. Oklahoma State seems like a ticking time bomb on Mike Gundy. I don't know if you can fire him necessarily. You can. I don't know if they will, but that's an interesting one. Iowa. I mean, when does Kirk Ferentz retire? He's not gonna get fired, and he shouldn't. But when does he retire? Dave Aranda at Baylor. I heard him talking about, or heard his name floated for UCLA. What about that job if it opens? Stanford's already open. Reich is a pure interim guy. Cincinnati, question mark. There are always unexpected jobs too. The long story short, you start doing the math here and you could easily see double-digit power conference job openings this year. I think Purdue's really fortunate that it got its guy last year. So far, we're only through 3 games. It's hard not to be impressed with Barry Odom. It's hard not to be pleased with what he's done if you're a Purdue fan. I think the hire is going to age well, and I think the timing of this is going to have worked out really well for Purdue. And credit Purdue for not wasting time last year. Credit Purdue for not trying to run it back one more year. Purdue did what it had to do. It was expensive. It wasn't ideal, but Purdue got it done. And I think Purdue is going to be better in the end because of it. We'll be back here after the game on Sunday. I'll have a full recap of whatever goes down beneath the Golden Dome. Next week, again, basketball episode. I'm excited for that. I know a lot of you guys are very excited for it. You're not going to want to miss it, so be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. If you enjoyed the episode, if you enjoyed the show, give a 5-star review. Tell one of your Purdue friends about it as well. Always love having more people come in the fold. Follow the show on Twitter at BoilersBeyond. Send me questions there or over email, boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com. Enjoy the game on Saturday, guys. Safe travels to those of you headed to South Bend. We will talk on Sunday. Enjoy the game and take care.